Freedom will not be trampled underfoot. This is Thinking Liberty.
Like so many earthworms.
It's Tuesday. What's today? The 24th?
Today is the 24th
24th. See, I even knew it.
of May.
Of May. I knew that too. And
After the rapture.
after the rapture.
Post-rapture
First post-rapture episode.
Straight from heaven.
We got Macho Man Randy Savage up in here.
Snap into a Slim Jim, brother.
All right.
180 degrees, 360 degrees.
And the beat goes on. If you have not seen the video on YouTube, Macho Man on Coke, you should look that up.
It is an outstanding video.
Yes, yes.
In fact, if you wanna, there's a plethora of good wrestling videos on Netflix. I've been slowly but surely going through them.
Which ones would you recommend?
My favorite so far is this video called Beyond the Mat, which is this documentary done by a dude all about pro wrestling, and he spends a lot of time with like Mankind and stuff like that, and it's pretty cool. His whole concept is it's not, what is it? It's not a sport, but it's not fake. And
right, it's like a stunt show.
Yeah, he goes
much.
through. He's like, these people like destroy themselves for this particular thing, and he sees like the guys who are getting paid like $20 a night to do it and stuff like that too. And it's kind of sad and it's kind of cool. And
I mean, they love it, you know.
I can see why you love it. It's pure entertainment, in my opinion. It's like, you know, a fantastic form of showmanship. I love watching this stuff.
I have an independent short film with the guy who's Mankind.
Oh, okay. He's
from one of the Trauma Dance collections.
Yeah, he's like a really nice dude. Like when you see him interviewed and stuff, like he's a nice guy.
Well, it's like Glenn Jacobs. He's gigantic. He played a really, bad guy on television, but he's like a big teddy bear in person.
Right, yeah. But I mean, they really do like just flat out destroy their body for that particular sport. Personally, I'm a fan of I like the Lucha Libre wrestling when I can catch that. I really like the old school Lucha Libre wrestling. That's like Mexican masked wrestling when they made movies and stuff with them. And they do like a lot of just weird grapple moves and stuff like that. It's like, two guys in masks and tights, like grappling to save this woman who was, kidnapped by banditos. I love that stuff.
Well, that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. I mean, of course. This is what everybody watches on their Friday night.
If I ever had to save a woman who is tied up by banditos, I know that I would be sporting a colorful mask and very tight pants.
I actually busted out my Lucha Libre mask the other night. It's excellent. Every time I pull it out, I feel like I just have to put it on and elbow drop my girlfriend.
Oh. Well, okay then.
And then the dog.
So, do you have any titles of those Lucha Libre films?
No, not off the top of my head. If you go on YouTube, though, you can find some nice Lucha Libre compilations. If you go, there's a group doing it now out of like Philly and New York. And what the heck is their name? Oh, I wish I knew we were going to talk about it. I would have looked it up, but I got some of their DVDs.
Well, obviously, we were going to talk about Lucha Libre wrestling.
Obviously.
Obviously. So I don't think we introduced ourselves. I'm Darian. We got Bosco over there.
Yes.
And Bile on the controls.
Yep.
Indeed. We actually have our
affirmed
our threesome today.
Our threesome,
which is kind of nice.
The triumvirate.
You were sorely missed last week, in my opinion, Darian.
Well, I'll try to be not sore or missed today.
What were you doing? Because I told everybody that you were distraught because you found that Donald Trump had dropped out of the race and you donated a lot of money to his campaign.
Yeah, well, it was also that, and I was preparing for the rapture. I don't know, cleaning and praying and
getting ready for Oprah's last show, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and getting my moves down so I look cool when I
your karate moves.
Up. So we got an email, actually. I don't know if we can get it up on the big screen.
I'll look it up on here. I can read it for you.
Okay, so as you know, if you go to thinkingliberty.net, we like to get emails and
email
contacts.
Us, please.
So it's all on the sidebar there. So someone emailed us at contact@thinkingliberty.net, and here's the message.
It says, "Hey there. I'm reaching out to you because Thumbtack is getting a lot of job leads for karate instructors. I'm looking for another karate instructor who's interested in taking on more clients. After checking out your website, I think you're a great fit for Thumbtack, and I'd love to start sending you job leads. Please fill out a few details about your skills and rates, and I'll start forwarding your potential new clients. If you have any questions about what Thumbtack can provide, please don't hesitate to ask.
I think we shouldn't hesitate. We should be asking, like, what can you provide us?
I like Darian's response was laugh out loud. She can tell how badass we are just by the website. My response is yes, Heather. Yes, we are karate instructors. We will take on any clients. Our teaching methodology is kicking ass. If you can handle it, we'll teach you how to chew metal and crap nails.
Well,
and then Darian responded by saying, Cobra Kai.
Well, I didn't actually send mine to her.
I didn't send it to her yet either.
Yeah, we have to craft a group response. We have to come to consensus about the karate issue and
the karate issue.
How do we want to? Well, yeah, we haven't actually revealed any of our powers in public yet, except for Bombast.
I think we should start offering it as a service. So it should be like, the Anarcho Bombast podcast / karate instruction.
Right. We'll just watch Karate Kid.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
We'll make you paint our deck and do a lot of sanding.
Wax the car. Wax on, wax off.
Show me. Show me.
Show me wax the car. And then we just punch you in the face. And you'll attempt to block or something, but you just totally get hit in the face.
Be like, see, all this time you were doing chores for me. You should have been practicing. That's your first lesson. Don't listen to authority.
I can still kick your ass. You should learn from this. Oh, God. Yeah, so we got the karate instructor email. What else? We got some other interesting email.
You know what movie I saw? Not all of it. Recently, I was Fist of Fury with Bruce Lee.
Yeah, I like that movie.
I hadn't seen that one. I've seen Enter the Dragon so many times, but I'm not really that familiar with his other works. It was good.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
He Enter the Dragon, I still think is the best in my opinion, but yeah, I mean, he did really good things. I think he did the Standing Rage better than anybody else I have ever seen. Like, I just wouldn't mess with him based on the way he held his fingers, sweated, and stood in one spot shaking. Yeah, pretty much. And just
what about like in Dragon Ball Z? Those guys, I mean, if they were real.
Yeah, if they were real, yeah.
They'd be more hard.
If they were real, they would be Bruce Lee.
That's possible.
True.
All right.
Okay, so here's another email comment we got real quick from the guy who won the T-shirt last week. He said, one question. Is there an entertaining story to the person on your show with the very unusual nickname? And the person he chooses with the unusual nickname is Tennyson. Ha ha! It's not something you hear every day. Then he says he's joking, of course. And I like this part. When I first heard Bile call into Free Talk Live, I thought his name was a spur-of-the-moment name reacting to co-host Puke. So Bile and Puke.
No, but that gets brought up a lot. It's actually Belay, but Bile is easier.
Belay?
Yeah.
We
Is
could
that your
actually
luchador
call
name?
you Belay. Like, we don't have to say Bile. all the time.
Everyone says Bile, so it would just be confusing.
We have got Billy, Belay, Bile.
We need to give you like a terrible nickname that nobody would want, like Hamas or something like that. Something that's just like associated with bad.
Hummus, that's from Poultrygeist.
You ever seen Bruno? Where he's like,
Yeah.
why do you hate hummus? It is he's like, the guy's like, are you talking about the sauce? It's made from chickpeas. He's like, no, that's delicious. We both like hummus. And he goes on and on.
Well, actually, with Bruno, the guy that he was interviewing that said that he was like a terrorist, he was actually like a peace activist or something.
Really?
In Palestine, and he is like, I don't know. There's some article that his reputation got tanked after that, and he was not able to do his stuff as well. I didn't really follow up on it too much, but it's kind of.
I gotta admit, I really liked that show, probably more than I should. And the only advice I got on it was from you. You're like, yeah, it's like really gay. You're like, really, like, you got to be prepared for that. And I watched it. I was like, this is awesome. Everybody I'm watching it with is like squirming. They're like, what the heck's going on? I'm like, this is fantastic.
I think what I said was something like, yeah, I've seen pretty much as much penis as I want to see for a while.
It's just like Borat fills your quotient of man ass for like the decade. Like it really does. That scene just goes on and on.
It was manastic.
Oh boy.
So why don't we get into some news?
News you can use?
News you can use.
What's going on in the world today?
What's going on in the world? Well, there's a lot of, I guess, protests going on in Spain. We might be able to get someone to talk about that later. We're not sure.
Do we have the money to call internationally?
That's a good question.
That's a good question, too. I noticed that the number that we got sent started with a plus sign. That's always it's always interesting.
+1?
That was like +4 or something.
That's even more power.
More power.
Yeah, so yeah, that's very interesting. It seems, hopefully we'll be able to talk to someone who has more eyes on the ground there. But seems like it's a protest against the general status quo. There's people coming out. They're basically setting up a huge huge camps in lots of squares, camping out.
Right.
Similar to what I guess was done in Tahrir Square in Egypt.
They got a very high unemployment rate there too, is what I hear.
Yeah, it's
over 20.
Right.
It's like 21, 22%.
It's basically there haven't from the limited number of news stories I've read on this. It doesn't seem like there's some kind of party that they're supporting or anything like that, but they're kind of looking for a different way to do things. Is kind of the impression I got. I don't know how accurate that is, but it would be cool if they're just recognizing, hey, the system is not working.
There's a lot of people involved. Like the guy I heard interviewed is like, he specifically said, he's like, we don't have a problem with the system. We just have a problem with how this system is working. And I'm like, well, there's a step in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Like when you come on the air and you're like, we don't have a problem with the system. It's like, oh crap.
Well,
that's
so
just
vague,
that's just
though.
one guy though. So like, I think there's so many people involved that I'd really like to know somebody more involved.
If it's a mass movement, then it has the potential, to go in a lot of different directions.
The Bolsheviks are going to take over? Is that what you're saying?
Hopefully there won't be Bolsheviks this time. But, yeah, so we'll have to see how that develops. A good situation to look into.
Yeah, it's if you follow like the Mish's economics blog, he's been covering that both because it's for him evidence that Spain is, in a downward spiral, which could bring all of the EU with it. But also, trying to
Trent Reznor.
Yes. and he's also trying to figure out what exactly, just like we were talking about, what exactly is going on over there. What are the people supporting? Trying to compare it to places like Greece, where you've got major unions who are pushing against government austerity measures. But the government's sort of in a hard between a rock and a hard place. It's like you have you have all these special interests, unions and whatnot, that are going to make your life hell. But if your country defaults, it's bad, like economically speaking, for a very long time, probably.
You know what I've been enjoying? Like all the terms that they're currently coming up with in Europe that aren't default.
Right.
Like debt restructuring, changing. And like you're looking at all these terms, you're like, are you guys like trying not to say torture, like New York Times style? Like is that what's going on here?
That's exactly what they're doing. And Mish is constantly, calling them out for that. And it's just the numbers don't add up. And as he says, like, I don't trust the politicians, I trust the bond market. And he points to shows a graph where the bond interest rates are just going up and up and up. And it's like, well, Spain's are still relatively low, yet shit is hitting the fan. Well, obviously something's going to give.
Default.
I was reading actually an account from someone who was in I forget what city. I think Barcelona, but he was saying how it was kind of like what happens when you have a massive protest at a convention or something, where people will organize a medical tent, people will organize food and all these other things, but there's not a convention going on. They're just out in the streets doing their stuff, which is interesting. I don't know how it is everywhere, but we'll see.
We got a comment in the chat room. It says they made their bed, now they're lying in it. Honestly, I don't really like that way of putting it because 9 times out of 10, the people making the bed is like the government and the people in charge who has control over this like fire hose worth of money, and the people lying in it are like the people who are unemployed.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it's not clear cut because those people who, yes, it was the government who did it, but oftentimes, like that gentleman you were talking about, it's not the system they have a problem with. They just think that the people in charge are screwing them, and they are being screwed, but not in the way that they think it is. So they're like, well, don't sell off assets, keep up our salaries. The unions want their salaries to stay, no, like in Greece, for example, they're trying everything I guess they can think of, like including selling islands and things or to raise money. And it's still not enough. They've gone so underwater. Like if any of us were that underwater with regards to our debt, then we would have to go into bankruptcy.
Default.
And so like there's just a disconnect, as if the government has infinite, ability to whitewash these things, and it just simply doesn't. And if you're supporting them continuing down the path that got you there in the first place, I can't have a whole lot of sympathy, except for maybe your ignorance of of everything that's going on.
Well, I mean, in some ways, I think people know that they're getting screwed, and they want to get their fair share out of the screwing that's going on, and get screwed less. But they don't.
But
really
they're all
have
asking
the real alternative.
Yeah, I mean, they're asking.
I'm going to get raped, but they're going to wear a condom.
Well, they're asking for like half a slice of pie when there's 3 people. Or half a piece of pie when there's 3 people. Like they're all asking for more than exists. So they're all asking to screw other people at the same time. So it's like the some of the teachers unions who in California are just like, raise the taxes, extend the taxes in California, and they're just like, tax more people. We don't care. Just keep taxing more people. It's like the taxes are already some of the highest in the country. So they're more concerned about screwing other people and not any sort of, equality of.
You need to think of the children. That's what you need to do. The AFT would like to remind you, please think of the children. They're your future.
I am thinking of the children.
Teach them well.
That's
Let
why
them
I
lead
want
the
to
way.
destroy mass compulsory schooling. Because
But what? That's crazy talk. You're insane. Were you homeschooled? Because you have social problems.
Of course.
Because everybody who's homeschooled has massive social problems. And you can't socialize students without segregating them by age and putting them into a system where bells ring and they go from one section to another.
Right. That's how you socialize.
That's socialization. Hang out with people all your own age all the time.
It's socialism. Right. let's throw words around here. But
we do a lot of that.
Yes, we do throw words around. We actually physically throw words. Like we're in this ether of language where there's just, letters and grammar floating around, and we just throw words at each other.
That's what it's like in heaven where we were raptured to.
Right.
Words just float around.
That's how I learned language in homeschool.
Van Darko Capitalist is going over your head right now.
I was not homeschooled. I did go to public school.
Uh-oh.
I guess as public schools go, they weren't bad schools, but it's still the model of mass compulsory schooling. In a sense, you can get good people in them, but the best people can only do so much. It's like we said, we need systemic change. There's not an easy way out of it.
I'm seeing a lot more and more on the education blogs now. It's kind of shifted because education's like the topic of the year, but it's kind of shifted to it's the least bad thing we've got. Like there's really a whole bunch of people that are like kind of jumping on that bandwagon. They're like, well, it's pretty bad. It's like, but if we went to like this charter school methodology, here's proof that it would be absolutely awful. And it's like, that's the idea. Like, we can't change because it would be much worse.
Well, I mean, charter schools, of course, aren't the solution. Maybe in some cases they would help. But I think we just need to think of alternate ways of organizing things, rethink what a school should be. It should develop the individual, not just subject them to a lot of facts and figures that they are physically prevented from applying in their life by the system of walls and rules and attendance and all that. So that's
sounds like radical stuff.
Radical, dude. So I think we have at least one listener from UK in the chat, from the UK, the United Kingdom, in the chat room.
It's a kingdom.
It's a kingdom.
The sun never sets on the British Empire.
Right.
Is that where we're going with this?
We're going. I think the purpose of every conversation is to turn into a nationalist penis measuring contest. So so let's do that. But no, we mentioned on the show a while ago this article that was in the Guardian about mutuals, that government services were, I guess, being in some cases being shifted to some manner of control by the workers in them. Of course, they're still government entities, but they're not as hierarchical, and perhaps it's a step in the right direction if we are going to be gradualists about it.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that approach can even work, by the way.
Yeah.
Same thing with schools. Can the incrementalist approach work ever?
Well, just real quick, if anyone has some more information on that, perhaps they could share it. I mean, the article is only like a month ago or something, so I don't know how.
That's an old topic, though. I mean, I talked about it before, too, with they're calling it like the Great Society or something like that. You've got all these, what we would call over here, conservatives basically saying, well, you need to pitch in and take over the following services of government and things like that. And, we need to work within our communities. And I think it's a bunch of lip service to, we're keeping your money. But that's personally what I think it is.
That tends to be what government programs are. Of course, we got to have citizen involvement. You've got to do this.
Civics,
and
man.
Civics. And yeah, but, we're going to have to direct it from the Capitol because that's how things are going to get done. And, no, we're not going to really change the system too much, or just
and you can't compete with it.
Yeah, we're just
can't start the rival water company. That's no good.
So we have a response. There's not a huge amount to say. It was discussed at one point, but hasn't been much progress.
Mr. Civil Lib, you should totally homestead a nuclear power plant. That's obviously the correct action to take.
Well, how do you homestead a nuclear power plant? Do you have to sit in every room at once?
Yes, you bring a tent and you work your way around, and you sit in every room and you sleep out there and you're good to go.
Okay, but as soon as you leave that room, then it's not yours anymore.
No, you need your friends with you too.
Okay,
and you need to cook. That's actually if you read actually I'm not going to bring that up. Never mind. I was gonna drop a name in there, but it's the answer to the Who Am I game that we never finished, and we might actually finish the game.
Maybe,
so I'm not gonna drop the name.
Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to listen to last week's show yet.
I don't think it was that good. To be honest with
you. Perhaps I could get in on that. Who am I?
We can do the Who Am I again today.
We'll do that.
And
later.
We can actually finish it today.
We'll do that. I guess in the
Who Am I
second
with
hour.
release.
Wow. It's like a to be continued. Like, previously on Thinking Liberty.
Previously on Thinking Liberty.
This. I have a mustache. My name is Bosco.
I am
Who
dead.
am I? And then it has to do that dramatic, and then changes to the rapture.
We got some people who already know who it is. Well, they're asking if they should give the answer on the chat. I don't know. I think we should let Darian guess and flounder.
Let's do it now. Let's do this. Who am I?
All right, hold on. I gotta load it up.
He doesn't have the Who Am I chambered.
It's
ready
in
to
my
go.
perfectly secure Dropbox share because they secure that stuff. That hasn't been in the media.
Have you looked into Voila yet? I'll send you an invite.
Yeah, send me an invite. That'll get me to look into it because it'll be in my inbox.
Yeah, it's so far I've been using Voila, WUALA, and if you look up on retailmenot.com, I think it is, they have all these promo codes, and you can get upwards of 17 gigs off the bat for free, and their yearly prices are really reasonable. And it's all encrypted on your machine, so you don't have that issue as you do with Dropbox.
Nice.
Right. So, do you want to maybe turn off our giant screen so people in the chat room can get in on this, and I won't be influenced by people who heard the questions already?
You could just not look. They're talking about how you're going to be deflowered, by the way.
Deflowered?
All right, I'm going to give you the first 5. You ready? Who am I? Number 13. Number 1, I am dead. Number 2, I am usually referred to by all 3 of my names, like first, middle, last. Number 3, I died in 1936. Number 4, I once wrote the protection of a title to land should be given only upon condition that the land be personally occupied and used by the holder. And upon his failure so to occupy and use it, it should be available to those...
Clarence Lee Swartz?
I hate you. Didn't even finish my damn thing. To those landless persons who would conform to these conditions. 5, I was arrested in Kansas City, Missouri for distributing a paper. 6, I was an assistant editor for journal Lucy the Light Bearer. Lucy, that'd be an awesome. That'd be an awesome title. That was a mistake there. Lucifer, like the Light Bearer.
The Beatles, like Lucy the Light Bearer.
Oh, here's another cool quote of his. One of the best tests of any reform movement with regard to personal liberty is this: will the movement prohibit or abolish private property? If it does, it is an enemy of liberty. For one of the most important criteria of freedom is the right to private property in the production and the products of one's labor. State socialists, communists, syndicalists, and communist anarchists deny private property. I wrote about mutualism. His most famous text was published in 1927, and it was "What is Mutualism?", which is really kind of like the only real important thing he seems to have wrote.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You can download that from libertyactivism.info.
I really enjoyed it. I read the property section before I did the world's most boring property show last week, and I liked it.
It was it was actually worth printing. Well, I didn't do the printing, but it was worth stapling all those pages. I thought it was a very good book, and it's certainly there's parts in it that are dated, but sometimes you have to look at it as a period piece in that way, and it's kind of interesting some of the things he says versus what I don't know you hear from maybe Kevin Carson. I think on basically just. I don't remember exactly what, but on like patterns of settlement and how I think Swartz was saying that there people will tend to centralize, whereas Carson says they won't.
I think that's an issue of technology too.
Yeah,
I think as technology gets better, it's easier to spread out.
Yeah,
I think about that whenever I ride on asphalt. The other interesting thing I really like that he said in there is he's talking about the issue of land, and he says, if you can solve everything by giving landless people like large tracts of land, and basically that's their own means of existence. He's like, then the Soviet Union would have worked. He's like, but even in his time period, he's like, yeah, but it really people still starved to death. It was still pretty awful.
Well, I think there's also a lot of coercive mismanagement in the Soviet Union itself. There were, I think. The system that was in place prior, there were large landowners, but there's also common lands. And during the revolution, I believe a lot of these large landowners who don't really have a legitimate claim to what they have were expropriated. So that there was the situation wasn't as simple as there were landowners and the Soviet Union instituted collective farming, but certainly the Soviet Union not really a good example to follow for anything.
Didn't do well. I actually saw good things to come out of the Soviet Union, by the way, which I keep a short list of in my head because it's pretty easy.
There's weapons.
Whenever I have the argument with Bile, fantastic things from totalitarian regimes. The Volkswagen Bug comes up, the Kalashnikov comes up, and then I'm stuck. But, I got the Volkswagen Bug and the Kalashnikov.
Well, that's all you really need. You just drive around in your Volkswagen Bug.
But anyway, so there's a movie called Kinzaza, all right? Kindza, all right? And it's a Russian sci-fi movie from the Soviet era, like towards the end of the Soviet era, that is pretty darn hilarious. And it's very abstract, very weird. It's all in Russian, so you're gonna have to find a sub version of it, and a little bit of it's in Georgian. But it's it's pretty darn funny. And to speak to the disconnect between people when you talk about ideologies, these two Russian guys get transported to another galaxy and another planet, and they're on this planet in the middle of a desert.
Sounds awesome.
It's awesome. It's awesome. They're on this planet in the middle of the desert, and this weird craft comes by. These two guys step out of it. They put these like two metal balls by them, and they start dancing, right? And they play this little song, which is awful. They make sounds. They're like, and they go, cool, cool, and they're going, chink, chink. And the first thing the guy thinks, he's like, these guys are really strange. They must be capitalists. That's what he says. He's like, we must be on a capitalist country.
That's fantastic. Oh, speaking of which, isn't the U.S. looking to reduce travel restrictions to Cuba? Did I read about that?
That's what I heard a little while ago.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that the other day. It's like, how ridiculous is that? Like, are Americans really going to go to Cuba and see how great state communism is and want to spread it? Like, I guess if you're the Soviet Union and you don't want people to see what a supermarket with food in it looks like, and things like that, okay. But what?
The interesting thing about Cuba is they have, like, especially Havana, they have the incredibly dated at this point tourist infrastructure. Like, they can, if somebody wants to go and say, oh, how quaint, and look at all the old cars and stuff like that and stay in an old hotel, somebody who's into that, it's there, like, ready to go. I really think they could stand to make a boatload of money off of American tourists going to Cuba, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, of course, blockading a country is punitive. So obviously there's a political motive, but I'm just trying to think of, if you're coming up with an ideological reasoning behind this.
I don't know. Maybe it'll get less restrictions when Fidel's dead.
Yeah. You don't want to get that communism all over. It's in the ground. It's in the water. You'll turn red.
There's a documentary I saw about Cuba. Unfortunately, I forget the name of it, but there was like a whole segment on beans and rice. And it was somebody talking about how all they ever do is eat beans and rice, and they weren't very happy about it. But then they did a good job because they went and they
petty bourgeois tendencies.
Well, they went and they looked at like the excesses of America too, and they're like, we don't really like this too much either. Like it's a person from Cuba who took a trip to the U.S. and they're kind of like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely sometimes I'm of two minds of this. It's certainly great to have abundance, but then I think there comes a point where it's just. I'm not asking to be like, worrying about whether there's going to be bread in my city, but just like, there's just so much crap. Like, that's just so much crap. And like,
that's why you got to get back to the land.
Back to the land.
That's obviously the solution.
The solution is always land.
Yes. The solution is land.
All right. So, I think we're going to take a break, and perhaps we're going to shift topics when we get back.
Topic shift.
We apparently can't do a Who Am I? That you didn't finish that one, and I got it in like 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, you know this stuff. You're like really smart. I had to learn about that guy, and I had to read like pages of information, whole pages, Darian.
Okay, well,
I'm used to reading tweets.
Just remember that I had trouble figuring out how to plug in my headphones and turn the right volume knob.
That was exciting. Yes.
Well, how do I do this? 180 degrees. 360. All right. So we are going to go to break now. Stay tuned for more thinkingliberty.net. And we're back on Thinking Liberty, the anarcho-bombastic podcastic.
Cool.
Nice. My headphones are falling off a little bit.
Yeah,
here.
I noticed you're like crinkling up into a ball over there. Or
I was just trying to keep my technology.
Is it time
together.
for the metamorphosis?
I have become the singularity with these cables attached to me.
With nanobots?
Nanobots.
I've got some extra headphones coming, but Deal Extreme is very slow
They
to
take a little while.
acquire them all and then ship my order. And
Oh, is that like one of those websites that say they have things in stock, but they actually don't?
No, it just comes from China, so it's coming on like a boat.
yeah, they often say
On a
they'll give
boat?
you some time frame, usually that it'll ship, but it's not very reliable.
Yes, Tennyson stuck around long enough. He's going to bed. He stuck around long enough to hear me say nanobots because I threw it in there just for him. Because he doesn't like the term nanobots. He prefers the term nanotechnology. Which honestly, I mean, he's got a really good case. Nanobots does sound like something that you see on like the 6 o'clock news for people who don't understand how things work. And it's like it's not a matter of just this one particular thing. It's a matter of small scale manufacturing. There's all kinds of things you can do.
Well, if it's a bot and it's nano,
But it's not necessarily a bot. That's the issue.
I just like to think of very tiny robots that are going to get under my skin and turn me into a machine.
No, they're going to turn you into gray goo.
that would be nano. Oh, it could be one. It doesn't have to be gray goo.
Blue glue? Blue goo?
No, well, I guess
Igloo?
Igloo?
Yes, igloo. It's
Red
going to
goo?
turn you into one of those plastic igloo dog
houses?
I was thinking coolers.
We had
Oh,
some
there's those
interesting
too.
technology news from Tennyson, actually.
Yeah.
I never read that.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's
We beat the heck out of technology news last show because you were just we're going
Droning
for
on.
time, and yeah, it was kind of brutal. Tennyson's like, change the subject. I'm like, no, Brudon had one more point. Damn it, we will learn this stuff.
well. Actually, most of the things that he talks about, I've already read, so I don't really. I mean,
Oh wow, he says
Tennyson-
you're uninformed, Tennyson. Uninformed.
That's not what I said. I said most of the things that he has read, I have read also.
No, uninformed.
I think that
Fine.
Tennyson
Tennyson
should
is
call in right
uninformed.
now. Tennyson should call in right now and nanobot you.
And nanobot you over the phone.
Yes.
What is that? Like as a verb? What
you
does
ever
that
seen?
mean?
You ever seen Johnny Mnemonic? That's what
Yeah.
that is.
I haven't
Yes.
seen
What?
that. Is it good?
No.
I've never seen it. I read the short story.
It's all right. It's got Keanu Reeves in it, so
We were talking about a Scanner Darkly.
That's
And,
a good movie.
Tan Staffel was defending the story. It's like a Philip K. Dick story, I think. He was defending the story, and saying that the movie was pretty bad.
I wasn't a big fan.
Yeah, I
don't know,
wasn't
I
too
thought-
excited.
I guess it wasn't really exciting. I
That was the
enjoyed it.
rotoscope movie, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I was in the city when it came out with two of our mutual friends. We were all drunk, and I think we all fell asleep in the theater, so it couldn't have been that good. I don't remember.
or you were that drunk.
I do
There's
remember
two options.
that night also included one of them nearly jumping off of a like 1 or 2 story parking garage and singing vulgarly, as I recall, in a subway, completely plastered as random people stared at them.
Did they make any money?
I don't think so. I don't think they were
Oh.
panhandling. They were just like barely able to stand.
You know, come to think of it, I don't really remember much of a Scanner Darkly. I think I fell asleep too.
I actually
Maybe
watched
it wasn't
the
a
thing
good
through,
movie.
and I was like, at first,
Maybe
I'm
I
like,
just had a dream that was really cool, and I was like, "Oh, Skinner Darkly."
I watched it, and at first I was like, okay, this is kind of cool in the beginning, and then it kind of just droned on and wore on me. You know,
Yeah, it was kind of slow, as I
Yeah.
recall.
wasn't a huge fan.
Not that I'm not a fan of slow movies. I mean, Liquid Sky. Yeah, but
I was actually trying to get somebody I play laser tag with to watch that the other day.
well,
I
you
was-
can now find it online in its full original ISO DVD.
Wow.
Yeah, it's got lots of downloads too.
I think I would do better to just actually burn DVDs and hand them to people.
Well, now you can get that when the guy that I know that uploads movies to
The
to
guy
the
you know?
internet. Yeah, to the internet.
I know this guy who has an STD, and it really burns when he pees, and he wants to know.
What's an STD?
They're STIs now, anyway.
Oh,
Like
it's
the
stud.
Volkswagen.
Standard templated libraries. What?
STL.
Yeah.
That's why you never have to learn to implement a linked list again, ever.
Speaking of which, I have to do an interview with, not have to, but I'm doing an interview with Google again in the upcoming weeks. And
will there be nanobots?
Well, the guys.
Are you going for another job? Is that the plan?
No, I just don't turn down offers. Google came to
okay.
me asking what I was up to, so I said
Cool.
I'd give them an interview.
That's how elite you are. Google comes to you.
They did.
In Soviet bile, Google Googles you.
When I told the guy
That was
that like
awful.
because he knew that I had an interview with them before, and I told him what happened, like they just never called me back, and he got really upset about it. He's like, "I'm so sorry." It's like maybe I'll look up who is in charge of your case because that's very unprofessional. And
I would have harassed him. I'd been like, yeah, it was like pretty evil. I wouldn't expect a group to be that evil. I'm just saying.
You did evil. So by the way, we had a comment from Tennyson a while back that I just didn't read when I was nanobotting it up. But he says, that's exactly the idea, Darian. People have the impression of nanobots generated by the horror markets. This is why it should be abandoned.
That's the exact idea, Darian. People have the impression of capitalism generated by the horror makers. That's why the word should be abandoned.
I think we should abandon all words. We either abandon words or we wave flags around words that a lot of people have different definitions of.
I think that's sort of like air quotes, like wave flags when you use the word.
Sure, why not?
We just need to add another ism to them, or if they don't have an ism, add an ism. So nanobotism.
We could just consider labels to be a conversational shorthand or an opening, rather than something that's
they're the definitive be all end all of one's beliefs. Don't judge people by their actions; judge them by the random crap they say.
They either have to be they don't have to either be meaningless or everything. There's a middle ground there that makes them actually useful.
I don't know. I think they're the tool of the overeducated petty bourgeois. That's what I think.
Well, you think everything is the tool of the overeducated petty bourgeois.
That's what a tool of the overeducated petty bourgeois would say.
I see there's no way out of this.
It's a tar baby.
And that's why Che had to leave Cuba. Moving on. All right, so what do we want to talk about today? We talked a little bit about Spain. Is there anything else going on in the world?
Anything else in the world? I don't know. I don't really go out there too much. But,
you stay inside the whole time? You know what I saw that was kind of cool that I wanted to talk about?
No, tell us.
No, never mind now. Now we don't get a segment. It's the Liberty on Tour guys. They're doing like the New Hampshire thing where they go around New Hampshire and stuff like that.
Touring to what is it?
It's
called?
like the
friendship tour. Or
friendship.
Well, since we're advertising or doing additional
we should
advertising,
probably know.
Yeah,
we probably should. Well, anyway, but they were in Grafton.
We just give people money, and
and they do stuff. They advertise.
That's
for
how
us.
it goes. We give them money. We don't know. We don't ask.
We give them money so they don't have
take
to
care of
They don't
things.
have to repaint Marv. That's the part that I feel the worst about. I'm like, well, you guys are going to have to remove that thing if we don't pay it.
It's just a decal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a decal, but it makes sense that they're not going to leave the advertisement on if they've got other people paying. But if it was me, I'd be like, maybe if it just made it semi-opaque. I don't like. There's no way to just leave it there and
I would totally
it somehow.
Add a magnetic suck sign underneath it. Like if you didn't endorse me on my
Cheap
motorhome,
bastards.
it'd be like the Key Liberty sucks at the bottom.
It beats.
I'd actually anti.
That might actually work out on our behalf.
Yeah.
But anyway, they were in Grafton, and I haven't read any of the. They generate so much media. Like Ademo and Pete are just astounding for knowing how to do all that wonderful stuff. And I haven't, despite this, I haven't read any of what they did, but I saw a picture set on Facebook, and it was awesome because it was like pictures of Rich Angel standing on a rock looking prophetic with greenhouses in the background. And he's like got his like hand in front of him. And he's like pointing to stuff and things like that. Like, this is an awesome picture set. I almost don't want to know what article this is going to go to. But yeah, I saw all the Grafton people again. And that made me happy.
That if you've got to be a prophet in some kind of leadership pose, I guess greenhouses and rocks, those are good things to have there.
We also probably couldn't pick a guy more averse to having the word profit thrown around with his name. He probably really, if he ever hears this, he probably really wouldn't like that. Strongly disagree.
So what was I was thinking the other day? I need to take more pictures with my hand inside my halfway
like
inside my
Napoleon
jacket.
style.
Yes, and just kind of gaze out
to the lands you're going to conquer.
Yeah, maybe I should just get like a big like 19th century mustache. I think that'd be very regal.
We've had some fans rock some pretty killer mustaches.
We have.
Definitely.
There's
have.
actually I don't know if it's still up there. I think it was the Smithsonian website had the what was it?
Mustache competition?
No, the best Civil War beard voting contest. So, yeah, there's some good beards out there. Some of the guys, it's just like, why would you go through the effort of having that thing? Or like, why wouldn't you cut that at some point? It's like hanging down halfway to your chest. Like, why would you want that hanging off your face?
That's how you get under the ladies' petticoats, Darian. That's what you do. All like 18 layers of them.
I see. I was thinking about that the other day. People in the past, they wore so many more clothes. Like I was really
hoping you were going to say they're stupid. People in the past are so dumb. They didn't have computers or anything. Didn't even know how to use like Facebook. God,
they didn't have phones. They would use mail.
What did they do? Stupid old people.
They didn't have video games. No, but it's like you always see these old pictures, and these guys, they're wearing like, they're just out and about. They're just wearing suits. It's like, who do you know who like wears a suit everywhere they go? And it's like that's just their casual thing, or they just their jacket. It's like all, and then you see people in like the summer like dressed like, wait, what?
There's got to be stuff that we do that people are going to look back. They're going to look back 100 years from now and be like, that was the dumbest thing ever. Why did people do that? It'll be like, I don't know, walking around with iPods or something like that. They'll be like, why did people do this? Or there's got to be something we do.
I don't know. I guess I could be sympathetic to the overuse of iPods. I mean, come on, like just look at what's going. Just like I don't know, just always, always just walking around listening to Thinking Liberty instead of like eavesdropping on the people around you. Like
that makes you likely to throw yourself in front of a train.
Whatever happened to just being nosy?
Excuse me, I noticed you were talking about the debt crisis in Spain. Here's an informative pamphlet that I have printed up for these occasions.
Listen to this. Put on the headphones.
Here's a copy of Human Action that I carry at all times. You can just strap this to your waist and carry it home.
You could do that.
Oh boy. Speaking of working your way through that, I have that same friend, Tan Staffel, was telling me, he's like, yeah, I want to work my way through the Thinking Liberty archives. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, I want to listen to all of them. I was like, all of them? Even like Patriot Radio through to like...
You don't want to listen to the Patriot Radio
I like the Patriot Radio ones, but I was like, you want to listen like when we went to the 2-hour format and everything else too through all of them? He's like, yeah, there can't be that many. I was like, I don't know. I've been doing it for like over a year, so there's at least 52. 2 hours. You're talking like 104 hours of Thinking Liberty. Like, how much time do you have?
No.
Yeah, it's just a lot, right?
I try to listen to the show as little as possible as I'm post processing it because I heard most of it the first time, and I really don't need to hear it again. Thankfully, that I've got it down such that I just have to clip off the ends and the beginnings of the dead silence, and then just encode it and ship it away.
Dude, I think our fans like the show better than us. We should just turn it over to someone.
The fans totally should expropriate it. They should just come in here and take the microphones and be like,
they're welcome to come and like replace any of us. Well, I guess except for me, unless they want to know how all this equipment works. But if you live in the New York, North Jersey area, you're welcome to come by and
we
join
need
us.
Guest hosts.
Come to the studio. Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet.
There are lots of New Yorkers that we know, or at least are from we're acquaintances with, that would probably come down and do this. We just I don't know if any of them listen to the show, or two, we just never reached out to them.
Yeah. Plus, they have to cross water to get here, like a lot of water. Generally, you don't want to do that.
There's that whole cool like New York ANCAP scene that I saw the one time that Tennyson invited me to. They're pretty fun people.
There was one this past Sunday. I didn't go though. I never bothered.
Well, you are an anarcho-capitalist, which means you're antisocial.
Yes.
You probably shoot all those people for being on your property around you.
But they're all they're all anarcho-capitalists too.
Everybody goes to the same restaurant and stares at the wall with their guns.
I don't think that would fly in New York.
Yeah, that would be open carry New York. Oh, wow.
Like I was telling some of my coworkers today about that story of the wheelchair-bound, like 80-something-year-old woman in New York who happened to be carrying a piece, like, concealed, and someone tried to rob her, and I think she just wielded the gun, and the guy ran away, and when she issued a police report, she got arrested for having a gun. Even though she had a license, unless you're carrying the gun to a shooting range, it's illegal to have on your person. So I don't know whatever happened to that case, but...
You know what we need more
That's why you don't talk to the police. They are not your friend.
They
have a job, and that is putting people in jail.
Yes, exactly. We need more handguns with bayonets. Like modern-style handguns with a bayonet.
CZ, I think, makes a handgun with a bayonet.
It's handgun with a bayonet?
It might just be... maybe it just comes with... I think, because handguns have the tactical rail for mounting flashlights.
And bayonets, yeah.
And bayonets. Yes. I think there is one that you can mount on a handgun.
I watched the video on YouTube called Kiss My Glock, and it was a version of Kiss My Ass by Ted Nugent about guns. And I'm watching this thing, and I'm just like, this is the worst argument I have ever seen someone make. And it's Ted Nugent just being Ted Nugent, man. Like that's what he was doing. I'm like, you have managed to offend everyone and foster no dialogue over this topic. And he's like going on and on. He's freaking out. Then afterwards, it shows him at like the firing range, like shooting random crap. I'm like, oh, this is great. Next time there's some sort of gun debate, that's just going to be my only response. I'll be like, here you go.
Speaking of police, in Fort Lee, New Jersey, I saw in NewJersey.com that they're getting they're making their ticket tyranny more efficient by getting digital ticket things.
That makes sense, yeah.
That actually send emails to the court rather than like just printing out a ticket and then bringing it into the station and transcribing it into their database or whatever. It actually like sends an email to the court. This is how it was described, to the court, and then you can instantly pay it. So it makes everything more efficient for those people who just want to pay off their ticket.
And they're going green.
And at the end of the article, it said that taxpayers haven't had to foot the bill for this, and because they've used confiscated funds to pay for it. And so I was just like, this is like 7:00 in the morning. I read this on my way to work, and so I leave a comment and say something to the effect that asset forfeiture needs to stop. It creates negative incentives for the cops to be to confiscate innocent people's property. And
are you insinuating that police officers might want to take stuff from people that can be used in their job?
Yes, and someone responded, you don't know what you're talking about. They only are able to get keep the confiscated stuff once the person is found guilty. But New Jersey has like a D- rating from IJ about asset forfeiture. The cops don't have to keep any records of anything they forfeit, and the state has no laws that sort of protect individuals when the cops confiscate things.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think that's really true. Generally, I'm pretty sure that there's not the same guilty till proven innocent when you're talking about asset forfeiture. And B, are we gonna actually assume that the criminal justice system protects innocent people?
Not us, but this person is insinuating that it is. And I linked them to that to IJ.org and said, regardless, here are the facts about New Jersey's laws regarding asset forfeiture. Even so, I wasn't using innocent in a legal way. I meant it in a both legal and moral way. Because if you're confiscating, someone's car because they have some pot in their car, then they're innocent of any real crimes.
They broke the law. That destroys society. Society's based on making arbitrary restrictions that everyone has to follow or get thrown into a cage.
If you don't do that, it'd be chaos.
Yeah.
Dude.
If you didn't create big facilities full of angry, violent people and cage them there, then, there wouldn't be violence.
But that's creating jobs. That's the capitalist dream. We incarcerate half the population, privatize the prison system, and then the other half watches them. And, we're good.
There you go.
We're golden.
Jobs.
Everybody wins. Win-win. Actually, I wonder what the percentage
economy
would be. What's the percentage of guards to inmates, do you think?
I don't know, but you got to think about, all the infrastructure and supplying all these guards and, who's going to...
Concrete and barbed wire manufacturers.
Yeah, it's a lot of jobs.
Yeah, if it was 1-to-1, then you wouldn't have anything else.
Well, we could just give, one group of people guns, and everybody has one inmate. You just keep the gun on the inmate all the time. And you walk around and do your stuff. Or better yet, you just have the inmate do stuff for you. Or, you can control a group of people who has to do stuff for you. This is a good idea.
Somebody on the Huffington Post is going to clip up the show and be like, libertarians,
what the hell?
They want to
Oh, God. That's just what I need. Bosco, neo-slavist.
I'm a pro-slavery libertarian.
Pro-slavery libertarian.
Isn't Walter Block supposedly pro-slavery libertarian?
Walter Block.
Well, he's not actually. I think he's got an awful argument.
I think he just likes to troll people.
I think that's that.
But he takes it very seriously.
Yeah, he certainly does. I mean, he advertised it. He just doesn't call it trolling. He says, "I take the most extreme position," which is trolling.
Yeah.
Well, okay then. So let's get into some other news here. Wow, it's 9:00 already.
It flies when you're actually here.
It does.
I mean, we took a hit when Tennyson left to go, venture the earth and
to wander.
Exactly, to wander
like
the earth
Cain.
for a bit, like Cain. Yeah, we took a hit, but I think when we still got 3 people, it kind of goes along. The last show, like I said, was a little rough, so it's kind of flying now, which is good. It's a nice clip.
Yeah, we should just have Tennyson always on the phone. Like we need to nanobot his head so that we can just always call him and make him talk to us.
He'll be around eventually sometime. I mean, we'll see him at Porkfest. He's still got to get us the interviews because he's doing interviews at the different places he goes.
He's collecting
supposedly.
He's collecting sound.
If he's actually going anywhere, I mean, he could just be like staying in Upper Manhattan somewhere under somebody's porch, and just sleeping under there. And he has like an internet connection. He uses that to contact us. That's possible.
I thought he was.
I haven't heard any of these interviews.
I thought he was in his penthouse, / harem, and
Pentharem,
Pantera.
He's touring with Pantera. He's
Okay.
far beyond driven.
Wait, hold on. We've got an article here. Tennyson says a porch in Upper Manhattan, unlikely.
Unlikely. Oh wow, shows you what I know about Manhattan. The one time
there's stoops.
The one time I did visit Tennyson,
I guess
was
you can't really be under them.
I took whatever the heck tunnel it was there, and I got off at like Times Square. Times Square just bugs the heck out of me.
That's the worst place to drive.
I absolutely hate it. So I'm driving through like Times Square, and I'm like, this is awful. Everything is LEDs. Everything is bright. Like, I just want to shoot myself in the head. And then the further north I drove, the more I was like, okay, this is more tolerable. Hey, it's kind of like Trenton. Like that's where we got eventually, and I was like, okay, I can handle that.
Well, there's actually Charles Johnson brought this up. There was an article, I think, in the Wall Street Journal about how companies are actually forced, if they are in a certain area of Times Square, to have giant light up displays.
Ugh.
Like I think one company got a building around there, and they really didn't want to have a giant light up display, but the city said they had to do it, and there are regulations on how much it has to flicker, if it's going to blink, and just all these other things.
Dude,
so
I hate going to that city. That city really just.
Well, see, I've come to I had I guess the evolution. It was first, holy crap, going to New York sucks, and then it's like, okay, if you actually know where you're going, that's the key. You have to know like where to go, where to not go, how to get places, and then it's okay. And then afterwards, it's like you get tired of doing that. It's like, oh god damn it, it takes so long to go 5 miles.
There's a boatload of things going on there, though.
Why can't...
Actually, one thing that I keep meaning to do is bring my bike up here sometime and then go over the GWB on the bike. That sounds like something I'd like to do.
So there's a bike lane, or is it just like a pedestrian?
There's like a pedestrian and bike path. It's actually pretty well known. Originally, when the George Washington Bridge opened, there was George Washington sucks, by the way, in case I don't get that in. But there's a there's a pedestrian toll only. There is no auto toll. So there's a nice pedestrian walkway and people bike and stuff like that. So that'd be a fun trip.
Wait, do you have to pay toll if you?
No, not if you bike, but there used to be a bike toll.
Okay, I see where you're going.
But anyway, yeah, I'd like to bike in Manhattan sometime too.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun.
Biking's cool. I should get out the bike since it's warm.
I watched. I was telling myself I got to rewatch this movie called Pedal, which is about bike messengers in Manhattan. And then there's another one that I haven't seen yet called Red Light Go, and it's also about bike messengers and that whole bike culture. I saw a movie called Bike, like as an acronym, BIKE, which is about bike clubs and tall bikes and bike jousting. And
interesting.
Yeah, that's another culture, I guess. There's a little more drug
another
use than I
culture.
think I'd ever want to see. Like it was really just 20-somethings destroying themselves and welding stuff. I can deal with the welding stuff part. I really like that.
All right, then. So maybe if they welded themselves instead of destroying themselves.
Yeah, Quicksilver's another one.
All right, so we've got some news. I guess Hosni Mubarak and some other Egyptian government officials, I believe his 2 sons, have actually been indicted. They are supposed to face trial in Egypt.
What are the charges?
The charges, I believe, for Hosni Mubarak, some of them are related to the killing of protesters during the protests, and some of the other, there are other charges. Basically, I forget exactly what it was, but basically that he was looting the country for the 30 years of his rule, and then I forget the lesser charges, but that's an interesting development. That they're actually holding this guy to a trial, holding him accountable for for what he's done. So I think that, that's a good sign that a person will be held accountable. They don't just get to retire in some some mansion somewhere with everybody's money
in Costa Rica.
Yeah, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, the trial will be interesting. Sometimes the trial can be just a way to kind of shift all the blame onto a certain person, but it seems like some of the other regime officials are going to be facing some kind of criminal proceedings.
Do you really think any good regime change is going to come out of this?
Well, there's, of course, being an anarchist, I think the best regime change is for power to be dispersed among all the people. But I recognize that things can move in a better direction where there's, more freedom, less exploitation.
So you believe there can be like an interim step or multiple steps?
Well, there can be steps. Yeah, I mean, it's if there aren't enough people interested in the anarchy option, then
so you'd vote for Ron Paul.
Obviously, that's the solution.
Well, no, I'm not that joking here. So,
well, I was still trying to finish.
No, you don't get to finish.
I
just interrupt you.
I think that
terrible.
Egypt has potential. Has potential to be good. I don't think the situation's really worked itself out. I mean, none of these things really work out. There's never like a final conclusion to them. But I think it's still under change. But we'll see how it develops. So as for Ron Paul,
but hold on. But based on what you said in Egypt, you had a regime change that wasn't caused by politics per se. Would you agree with that? That it was more the protest movement that caused it?
Yeah, I mean,
and it's kind of been co-opted to become political now with what's being established.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if co-opted is really the right word.
Or it's turning
I guess
political.
it was used for that, but I don't. I think for most of the demonstrators, it wasn't about breaking away from the system. It was about changing the system, and I think a lot of them aren't satisfied with the changes that have been made, but they weren't. They weren't trying for something completely different. It was just, the change hasn't gone far enough. I guess you could say co-opted in that certain politicians will profit from this, but I don't know about co-opted as in something was redirected from its original purpose, taken into the establishment.
So it's slightly less bad.
Slightly less bad.
It reminds me of there's a scene in Kinzaza where he's talking about why he needs wealth, and the group that is in charge of everything there is the Ecolops, which is like police backwards. And he's like, yeah, if I have enough wealth, we live in this great society where, the police won't be able to come and beat me at night, not even once. It's like they'll still be able to beat him during the daytime, of course, but this is slightly better. That's kind of what the incrementalist thing reminds me of. I mean, it's like it's a little better, yes, but you're still not there. Do you think people evolve to the point where they get there, or is it always?
I don't know about it. If it's people evolving, it's society and ideas evolving that are based in people's actions. I think a lot of it's a cost benefit thing. How much effort are you going to put into making a minor change? Are you going to put a lot of effort into making a major change and then seeing something that will help you get there? Not just assuming that it's going to help you get there because that's what they're saying, but you make the calculation that this will help you get to your end goal. You spend a little bit of time on that intermediate goal, whatever, when the subject's brought up, you state that you support something, or
you go out and cast a vote.
Yeah, something like that.
Pretty easy.
So, I can see that, but certainly, if you are going to throw all your effort into something that's not what you want, then you're never going to get what you want.
So you wouldn't hold a Ron Paul sign, but you would, put the Ron Paul ballot in the box.
I think we're assuming that Ron Paul is the right direction. That's the first question. Is having this politician in power going to make things better?
He's going to secure the border. That's what we need.
I think, of all the bad options within government, Ron Paul is certainly one of, the least bad.
The least bad.
I think he actually is committed to a more rational foreign policy, as well as dismantling some of the police state apparatus. So those things right there, I think that's a major change if he actually can do it, which I think he is actually committed to doing, unlike Obama, who obviously wasn't from the beginning, that would do a lot of good. So, I would if he was on the ballot, I would probably cast my vote for him, depending on, who the other guy is, which, in this case would be Obama. But
Wayne
I'm
Allen
not, I'm not gonna, I'm not going to say that Ron Paul is, he's like there's a straight line from where I am now to where my ideals are, and Ron Paul is going to bring me like almost there. That's not how it works. Ron Paul has his own agenda, and there are some ways in which it matches mine. And to the extent where it benefits me, then voting is not.
I saw a fantastic video that was posted very briefly to the PorcFest group on Facebook. And there was this dude, and he's like, I pledge my time and my wealth to Dr. Paul. And he's like going through that. I'm like, yes. I'm like, I am bookmarking this because this is just going to be my response to people when I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think a cult of personality is a bad thing. Ron Paul's not going to fix everything. He might play a role, but I mean, certainly there are people who agree with him on more issues than I do, or the critical issue of government. But the thing is, change isn't going to just come from the top down. Some changes can be made at the top that make there more space for the necessary work outside the system, but the system isn't going to just change itself. We have to work outside to build up the social and economic power necessary for individuals to live in a free, consensual manner, generally for mutual benefit. So,
okay, but you would vote. I mean, you said you'd vote.
I'm saying I'm not committing here. I think as my
I'm not
position,
going with you to your polling place.
You should.
I should.
My position. If you read my essay, it was in Alliance called "Election Strategy for Anarchists."
If you read my book,
it was. It's an essay. It was. It wasn't. I didn't say that I was a principled non-voter because I don't think voting makes that much difference where there is a huge moral, effect there. Like the individual voters not making that much of a difference, where that you can really legitimately bring morality into it. But there is a little bit of a difference, and there's certainly a difference in what you say to other people that influences them. So in general, I think it's better strategically to not vote. However, if it means it will be easier to organize in a manner than voting for a particular candidate or issue, in that pursuit, it might be a good choice. However, if there is a very large vote for nobody campaign or post-political, if you look that up on Facebook, that's getting going, then maybe I would choose to vote for that, to abstain from the ballot to show that I'm boycotting the system. So, there's not a whole lot that one vote's doing. Certainly, me talking about it in a public manner is going to influence other votes. However, I think keeping in mind what will actually get you to your goal, which in my case is an anarchist society where no person rules over another one, then not voting is usually the best thing. It might not always be, but I'll have to see if not voting will actually be a kind of campaign that makes a difference.
And I think that horse is dead.
What horse is dead?
I think the topic is dead.
Yeah.
I think we've beat the hell out of it.
You know what I really think we need to do?
Talk like Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh, yeah.
Snap into a Slim Jim. That beefy, juicy spice. Oh, we've actually got Macho Man Randy Savage clips.
Macho Man Randy Savage. You have changed over the past couple of months like I can not believe, sir.
I'm a chameleon, yeah.
A chameleon?
Yeah. I'm talking about the beat goes on, yeah, and the beat goes on.
Dude, this reminds me so much of Nick.
In the video scope, yeah, I am looking right into you right now. Macho Madness right now. Sugar is sweet and so is honey. Macho Madness is on a roll and it can't be stopped. No, Elizabeth understands what I'm talking about, yeah.
Why is it, Macho Man, when I sit and talk to you, stand and talk to you for that matter, that I think of old Sonny and Cher hits? Why is that?
Unbelievable. Time distortion. Space is the place. Me and Gene Okerlund go down that lonesome highway. Yeah, but don't be hypnotized. No, reincarnation doesn't have to be. You can concentrate and you can mental telepathy. Yeah,
but the beat goes on.
But the beat goes on.
That beat in particular has got to include maybe the Honky Tonk Man, the Intercontinental Champion of the world. I know you're not getting along real well with members of the Bobby Heenan family, Macho Man. Not at all.
Let me tell you something right now. Talking about the greatest Intercontinental Champion that ever lived, the Honky Tonk Man is out of line. Yeah, because I am the greatest Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion that ever lived, and I'm the greatest professional wrestler that ever lived, and I'm living now. Yeah, right now.
You know, he makes no bones about making the proclamation that he is, I'm talking about the Honky Tonk Man, the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time.
He says I can't sing and I can't dance, but I can make romance. Yeah, right there, the fork in the road. I said go right. Elizabeth said go left. I went right. And then I understand what the situation was I went over that one bridge, yeah, and then when I crossed that bridge, I found out that I was on the right side, and I said, Elizabeth, follow me, yeah, because I'm going straight to the top. The stars, yeah, the stars, one shining star in the night, shining brighter than all the other ones. And I'm talking light years away, yeah.
You're talking Macho Madness.
Macho Madness, yeah. Macho Madness rolling, yeah. You thought so, but I know so. And Macho Madness is coming straight at you, Honky Tonk Man. And I like, yeah, because I'm on a roll and I ain't stopping, yeah. Elizabeth, go right and I'm going left.
Can I ask a question, Macho Man?
No more questions.
I'm sorry about that. Macho Man Randy Savage.
No more questions.
Yeah. Oh, snap it to some Michael White. Yeah. Oh God. 180 degrees. All right.
See, we tried to get Darian to watch that video like 50 times so he could just start off the show with the 180 degrees.
We totally need you with
State says go right, and I went left.
like bicep straps with the tassels. That's what you need.
Those big freaking sunglasses.
Yeah, the giant
and
sunglasses.
and the what the hell's he got? The thing over his head.
That's awesome. Macho Man Randy Savage will be missed. Definitely will be missed.
Died at a young 59 of a heart attack and then crashing his car. Did they ever figure out which actually killed him? I never read any of the follow-ups.
I just know the method of death. I don't know which one was like the actual. I heard the same story you did.
So
Another good movie, The Wrestler. If you want to see some in New Jersey,
fantastic movie.
you can see some Asbury Park.
I haven't seen it, but I do know one little factoid. The NES game that they play was actually developed just for the movie. Someone actually coded that little wrestling game, and it wasn't like a script or anything. It was actually an NES game, and it was actually controllable. It was just made for that movie.
Nice.
So,
it's a good movie about Randy the Ram in the movie.
Yes, it was really good. I mean, it was very touching, deep character drama with wrestling.
True.
Good
you
stuff.
can also see, if you like the history of wrestling, you can see there's a history of WrestleMania documentary that you can see on Netflix. That's pretty good.
Yay!
It gets into the like when it got really big, different things they did, the different ideas they have, when they made it huge, then when they made it smaller again. They're actually
3 was when it really started getting big. I think that was like Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan. Because I think that was the first one that I actually watched.
Yeah. Well, like Vince McMahon is there's a lot of
douchebag?
Yeah, he is. And it's like he's astoundingly intelligent. So like you look at the stuff he does and he's very candid about stuff that he wants to talk about on camera. And then if you record something he doesn't want to talk about, he like takes you to court to try to get the footage not released. So that's what they did with Beyond the Mat, and the guy released it anyway. He's like, I'll take on your WWF, but they
WWE.
Yeah, sorry, WWE technically. But you see him nowadays, he's interviewed and he's all about movies. That's what he wants to talk about. He's like, yeah, we don't do wrestling much anymore as the main thing. He's like, mostly we're a movie studio. So what they've done is they've released a lot of documentary movies and stuff like that. The documentary movies are pretty good because it's actual footage and it's the people who know it the best. The actual movies they try to make are like somebody who watched The Scorpion King 500 times and they're like, oh, I can make a movie. Yeah.
I was reading something about after the whole Macho Man thing. Somehow I ended up I like clicked through on Wikipedia to like the Ultimate Warrior and found that he has some blog and he talks about politics and stuff and makes like artwork and sells them on his website and but I guess I didn't realize there was so much controversy with the Ultimate Warrior and how like they put out a movie called like or documentary about him. It was called like the subtitle was The Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior or something like that. And he sued them and it went back and forth and it only ended like recently. And
interesting.
Now he's got a like a workout studio or something.
Yes, I mean it's really hard for people to in that line of work to make money past a certain age. I guess it's kind of like stripping in that respect. Like you've got a limited segment where you can make a decent amount of money if you do really well in your particular field.
I like that stripping is your
Well, can you think of another thing that better demonstrates that? Sports. I think you got a longer. Like, say you're in the NFL, you could endorse things for a long time, like isotoner gloves and stuff like that afterwards. But I think like the stuff that's just straight entertainment, like wrestling, for example, people don't remember you quite as long.
You can be like Hulk Hogan and make movies like Assault on Devil's Island, and
well, he had that reality TV show too.
Oh, let's not talk about reality TV.
A lot of the big wrestlers, they stay around for a long time. I mean, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, all those guys were around for decades. And Macho Man was 59, and he was still wrestling, or just recently was wrestling. So, but the lower end guys certainly go through. There's a high turnover, and they end up going into like second and third tier wrestling, and then open up shops, and
it's pretty rough. It's neat. Beyond the Mat gets into like the advent of ECW, which was like my childhood when I was in high school. That's when ECW was really starting to get big, and you saw like a lot of just the really crazy stuff going on, the things like that, and that became kind of huge. And honestly, for all that, having seen that kind of stuff, and having seen people, get slammed through tables from huge heights and off ladders and stuff like that, I like the small technical stuff. I like the old style stuff. I like the comedy aspect. Like, that's the stuff that I can appreciate. So honestly, I don't feel too terrible about watching it, because I like watching the performers who perform at small venues that I can go see, and they do mostly comedic acts and things like that. That's what I like.
So speaking of Roddy Piper in the chat room there, he was in They Live. Fantastic movie. Yes, I actually referred to that before, because when I was talking about putting on the headphones.
Yeah, I watched it like last week.
It's on my queue.
It's so good. Especially the 5.5 minute fight scene where he's fighting with, and I forget the actor's name, but the other character, trying to get him just to put on the stupid sunglasses. And I think it's considered like one of the top 10 in a lot of lists of the best movie fights.
He should have just been like that YouTube movie where he throws the sunglasses and they go right on the person's face. Yes, I did just do a throwing motion for those of you in our listening audience.
I can't see it.
It makes it easier to talk when I act it out.
Talk with your hands.
Yeah, we have a camera on top of the TV here, and it's actually aimed at the chairs that Darian and Bosco are sitting in right now.
But he likes to pretend that they're not actually on.
Well,
it's not actually recording.
It's actually just put there by the government. We have nothing to do with this camera.
And I tried to use Ustream.tv the other day and see if we could stream to Ustream when we do the show. But for some reason, it worked on my laptop and didn't work on the HTPC. The only difference being really the fact that it's a different camera, and so I got to play with it again. Maybe some weird driver issue or something. Or
does this mean I'm going to have to start wearing pants when we record?
Well, I don't have to turn the camera on. I was just experimenting to see if we could, maybe get more get viewers or people to pay attention if we have a stream. Because a lot of people like the camera of Free Talk Live.
FTL.
So if our fans could see Darian emoting his bombast, then maybe
emoting all over the floor,
and maybe we could get a lot more listeners.
But then I don't know, because it's not like we're not really acting for the camera, so. Someone will be talking, and someone else will just be like,
picking their nose,
looking up something. Like
that's what it's like when you watch like Free Talk Live too. Though it's like, yes, I don't have to talk. I can take a sip of water, look at something on my phone.
Yeah, I try to keep my headphones on.
There's I don't know what it is, but there's still something about just watching, even if it's people on radio. Lots of radio shows have video streams, so
it's like picture radio.
It's kind of weird, like at least for me, when we first started, or when I first started doing this, because when you go on a JAG, like when you have something that you want to talk about, and everybody in the room has probably heard it before, so it's like, oh yeah, Bosco hates George Washington. We all know this. So I'll start talking about George Washington. It's like nobody really looks at you in the eye necessarily. People are just like doing the other stuff that needs to be done for the show, because we all know what we're gonna say about George Washington, who
Well,
sucks.
you have to do that anyway. I mean, generally, unless you have other people taking care of the show,
Yeah.
and even then, you still have cues to worry about and all those things. So,
Whoa, hold on. What is this trivia that just got posted in the chat room
what trivia?
from They Live? The
It
fight
was-
between Nada, Roddy Piper, and Frank Keith David was only supposed to last 20 seconds. This is in They Live. But Piper and David decided to fight it out for real, only faking the hits to the face and groin. They rehearsed the fight for 3 weeks. Carpenter was so impressed, he kept the 5-minute and 20-second scene intact.
I
I don't know. I don't know. Where are you getting this from, Tennyson?
Shenanigans.
Regardless, it's an awesome fight scene and is completely duplicated in that one episode of the South Park with Kenny versus
Oh, that's what that's
Jimmy.
from?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and I think you can find a video where they splice both, like on YouTube or something. They put both of them next to each other, and it's scene by scene, dialogue, like it's the whole thing.
Yeah, apparently, Tennyson he got that trivia from IMDb, so
Oh, it was on the internet. It's got to be true.
There you go.
So let's talk about some news.
You can
And
use.
recently, you can use all news. It's just a matter of how well. But
Can we use it to derail your train of thought?
you can use your ability to be a dick to do amazing things. So recently,
Or is that only true with interjections? All right.
Interjection.
You look like you're ready to hit me. All right.
So I think the show's over. I'm going home.
I hate these guys. This is why I wasn't here last week.
All right. So in Tennessee, I believe in the state House of Representatives, a bill passed a committee. So I don't think it was passed by the House, but it was part of it basically said that I think 8th grade and below teachers in public schools and students are not allowed to say gay or refer to the fact that there are gay people. So
In existence?
like apparently not all the news reports they don't have the language that I've seen, but George Takei had a very excellent video on this. He basically said that George Takei he said that they basically that they're trying to define pretend that gay people don't exist by making it so people can't talk about them.
Yeah,
so
'cause that works well.
what Takei says is you can, instead of saying gay, say Takei. So say it's okay to be Takei. So this is it's an interesting response. I like where he's going with this. He tends to be very good at the public presentation.
Yeah, I don't know. The language argument, whenever people try to mold and change language, it does not work well. I have this argument a lot with somebody was discussing the word retard, and they're like, you can't use it. It's like you shouldn't use it with that inflection. And I was like, okay, well, what if you made developmentally disabled like a slang term? And they're like, well, how would that possibly work? It's like, well, it's like, oh, I ordered this from the Chinese food place, but they gave me this other thing. Man, they're so developmentally disabled. God, that's developmentally disabled. Like, it's a mouthful, but you could make it. Then the people would eventually find that word offensive. And then you'd move on, and you move on, and you move on. And the friend didn't like my argument. That's the moral of the story.
Okay.
But there's a lot of words I feel like that. Like, I think words have a lot of power because people ascribe a lot of power to them by, basically limiting their use and making a huge deal out of them.
Well, it seemed like it wasn't to prevent people from, using the word gay as an insult or as a pejorative. It was
just to make it not exist.
To make it not exist. And for the people in the chat room, I believe it's Tennessee. So you can look that up. Again, it didn't pass or anything.
Tennessee.
It's just out there in the bill making into law ether that exists. There's a lot of
I'm
ether
an
on the show.
amendment to be. And I was thinking about that today. You ever see that Simpsons with the Schoolhouse Rocks thing with the amendment to be?
Yeah,
there's a lot of flag burners that have too much freedom. I want to make it legal for policemen to beat them.
Yeah, that's a good one. I haven't seen The Simpsons for a really long time. But anyway,
Not missing much.
Back to
Yeah, watch the old ones.
back to Takei here. It's I mean, I guess I'm not sure exactly what the thought process is here. I mean, obviously, it's that we don't want our kids to talk about gays, but is it because they associate gays only with sex, and sex is only something that children should never hear about, so that they're totally unprepared for it when they're physically ready, or is it a matter of we don't want to discuss these people? If we don't talk about it, it will go away.
Well, I think it comes down to the classic: homosexuals are different than them. They can't understand why homosexuals act the way they do when it comes to their sexual preference. So they are intimidated and frightened of that. And they think that if they ignore the whole thing and make sure nobody can say gay or homosexual or anything like that, then you don't have to deal with it. Then it goes away.
Yeah, it's so messed up though that these are kids who are trying 12, 13. They're trying to figure out who they are. They're having different feelings for the first time, and the fact that they cannot be allowed to hear in school that they might be attracted to someone of the same sex is just goes back to my point about how evil mass compulsory schooling is. But this certainly brings it to a new level of evil that these kids have to then think that there's something unspeakably wrong about them. I mean, it's not necessarily an explicit argument, and arguments don't need to be explicit to be effective. It can just be, you grow up knowing that this is not something that is talked about, or you just don't really know anything about it, and it just gets associated with wrongness. And how is this going to make people feel, and how is it going to make others that behave towards them?
I think it happens all the time, though. This is just a very overt example of it because there's legislation involved. There's all kinds of things that it's socially unacceptable to talk about, and these particular social mores foster confusion about that particular thing, and if it's a negative situation, keep that negative situation from being dealt with. So I mean, it's I'm sure there's circles that would tell you, we don't want to talk politics, or we don't want to talk about this particular thing, where you could be talking about something like genocide or something like that, and it's like, oh, that's such a downer, you really shouldn't talk about that. And it's like, well, if you never talk about this stuff, then nothing's ever going to change.
Yeah,
it's almost like this stuff didn't happen.
And especially when you think of school, I heard that schools are supposed to teach people about the world. Let's just pretend all that, rhetoric is true here. Shouldn't this be something that people should know about, or that at least have the opportunity to discuss it without facing repercussions from the school? Which, if somebody has a reputation as a bad kid, or they have that label, then that's going to stick with them probably through their school career and negatively impact their future. So this is something that it's just ridiculous to not talk about these things.
I'd agree with
you. Even for things that are actually bad, like genocide, I mean, it's something it's important to talk about. You don't have to go into the graphic details for people who are, really young. You don't have to explain, exactly what it looked like and smelled like, and how many corpses there were, and the methods they used, and what these people wrote home to their sweethearts about this. But you should mention that this happened, because if people aren't aware of something, they're just not going to know what to do about it.
See, I think the other part that makes this story particularly compelling is the fact that it's not the issue at hand is not evil per se. You know, it's kind of easy to make the argument like, well, you shouldn't talk to so and so level of kids about this horrible topic. It's like, well, what you're dealing with here is homosexuality. You're dealing with somebody's sexual preference. It's not there's nothing intrinsically I don't know. It's related to sex, which I guess makes it kind of difficult to talk about. But it's not like you're dealing with like you're saying like genocide. Like it's not nearly that graphic or bad or anything like that.
Right. I mean, it's
or
not
bad at
right.
all for that matter.
I mean, you just say, well, yeah. I mean, if you're talking to a little kid, some men like to kiss other men. Like that's
there you go.
That's how
that's
they
the way it is.
Good. Like you don't have to like describe in graphic detail, which I think is kind of on these people's minds whenever they hear about any sexual practice that is not their own, that you have to describe it in exacting detail and what's sinful about it. No,
because it wouldn't be that odd to say to a kid, mommies like to kiss daddies, right? That's not that strange of a thing to say. So,
right. So, yeah.
So there's us weighing in on stuff that we don't know nearly enough about in states that are doing stupid stuff.
Right. But I think, what we're seeing here is there's a lot of reaction against certain, freedoms, basically, that people are more accepting of things. And this is threatening to some people, whether it is personally threatening their own sense of identity, or whether it's threatening their idea of what society is. The fact that that people can openly talk about homosexuality and things like this now is it's a major improvement over only a few decades ago. So a lot of people don't like this, and they're trying to use whatever means they can to stamp it out because they see it as wrong.
Well, to actively not foster discussion too is pretty outright evil. Right. I mean, I'm pro speech no matter what the speech is. So it's like, if you want to tell me how and why homosexuality is evil and it destroys family life, well, then you're more than welcome to, But there's no way I'm going to say like, oh no, you can't possibly say that, even if it's contrary to what I personally believe. I'm never going to say, well, we just can't talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to you have to be careful, of course, when you're talking about in a school context where you have an authority figure, a knowledge figure,
indoctrinating.
But it's certainly getting other views out there, like saying, hey, this is something, these are beliefs that some people have, why this is wrong. Or the other thing. It's
ultimately you want
discussion.
You want
this.
Everybody's beliefs out there, and you want people to be informed enough and educated enough that they can make their own decisions. Which I think most people are, like, post puberty. I'd say. I mean, once you reach that point, you've come into your own. You're developing your own mind. If you've had a proper upbringing where you've had to make decisions and not just have things spoon-fed to you, then you're more than capable of making decisions, in my mind.
Yeah, and it's amusing kind of the arguments that people make why that's not true. Like, oh, they don't have experience. They aren't able to figure these things out. Like, okay, well, let them experience things in, a guided context. Help them figure things out, demonstrate actual responsible behavior and rational thinking.
Provide information.
That's the same thing when, like, I don't know, people talk about, kids, being lazy or whatever. It's like, well, look at what adults are doing. They're just, they're working at a crappy job that they hate, and then they come home and sit around,
sure.
like,
or and
eat crappy food. Like, this is...
When people lament the slow death of the mainstream media, they're like, well, who's going to decide for us? Who's going to make sure that it's unbiased? Who's going to do the fact checking? It's like, well, you do. Like, you gotta think for yourself. You gotta search for the facts. I'm sorry. It's just the way it works.
Or you pay or have someone else do it for you. Just it doesn't have to be the old school media.
True.
I mean, that's the other, like, sort of got to an argument today about, well, I had watched a documentary about Lyme's disease,
Okay.
and that led me to a rant.
Was it Under Our Skin?
I don't remember what it was called, but it had some conspiratorial type elements to it, and then I started ranting about the FDA and how the government's involvement in the documentary was a contributing factor to potentially the unscientific aspects to the research regarding Lyme's disease. And that ended up to be a rant about the FDA and how it kills more people than it helps. And the guy I was arguing with said, well, but how is it that we're gonna, find out that doctors are safe and that medicines are safe? Like, you act like these aren't things that people want. If people want them, then the market will, someone will pick up that role.
Hand will do it.
It's like someone will do that role, just like your television is handled by Underwriters Laboratory or some other third-party certification. Like, the government does not have bureaucrats who are checking your TV. There are other people who check the TV. There might be laws, but those are sort of secondary to the fact that they're already being checked.
Yeah, I think this is people really. I don't know if they ignore this or they're unaware of this, but Underwriters Laboratories, look that stuff up. That's on a lot of. Is it on all your electric appliances? I mean,
not all of them, but many.
It's not a government agency. This is a certification firm,
or even your food. Even your food, like organic as designated by the government is not organic according to just your average person. And many, like Kashi, has their own certification, or some company that does organic certification for them, and that's in addition to the government certification that they have. So it's like, well, clearly people care enough that and I told him part of the problem is likely his ignorance, because you don't see these things.
Did you use the word ignorance?
Yes, probably.
Okay.
Well, what other word is there?
I'm just continue.
Because people aren't aware of it because they simply don't need it. They're not Consumer Reports, or they see Consumer Reports, but they don't see UL because Walmart hides it from them, because Walmart knows that the customers really don't care about UL. Walmart knows that they will be blamed for bad product. So Walmart goes to UL or someone up the chain does, so that further down the chain towards the customer, they don't have to worry about it. So it's built into the system already, and you don't have to see it.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing that, the same problems that you could bring up against a, market or consensual certification firms, they apply even more to the government. A firm that's whole existence is based on certification and it has people working under them, are people working within the firm, and that's their whole existence is based on their reputation, then they have quite an incentive to make sure that they do things right, whereas the FDA doesn't go out of business. And we had Mary Ruwart on here talking about how terrible the FDA is, and let's face it, the government is susceptible to backroom corporate money as much as, at least probably more than some kind of market or nonprofit.
Right. Even so, the very fact that you have a monopoly organization, even if it's as saintly as could possibly be, it is going to make a mistake. And therefore, simply, by following it to its logical extremes, then at some point they're going to mess up, and they mess up for everybody. And it's a bureaucracy, and it's a monopoly, and therefore it's going to be harder to change. So he says, he's arguing that, because in the movie it talks about how the people at the highest part of this board who were doing things regarding Lyme's disease are now under investigation, and they put out this official doctrine on how to deal with Lyme's that they ended up using, insurance companies end up using to not to pay for the care of certain people who think they need more than what the government said is okay. And now these guys are being investigated. And, I said, look, one organization, one licensing, the same people who say whether or not Lyme's is easy to cure and hard to get are, if they're wrong, then they're wrong for everybody. And this trickles down to the insurance companies, which are also controlled by the government. Like, it's the same organization. So if you have one bad mistake, you can have tens and thousands, millions of people affected by this. If you had competition in this, in licensing, in certifications, then this is less likely to hurt more people, and the competition alone will help keep people honest.
Yeah, and even the idea of having multiple agencies certifying something, that it doesn't necessarily have to be this. When you say competition, people are they're all cutting each other's throats, but it doesn't have to be that. They can just be like doing their business, or sometimes even working niche on the same. Yeah, have their niche geographic or
just be
specific to
complementary to each other.
Yeah, or be complementary.
But this person also commented how he said, like, well, private certifications are useless. Like, well, even if that's true, why do you think that would be? Like, it's not if it's not useless because the customer wants it to be useless. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a certification, right? So it's only useless in the current society, if it is at all, because government has monopolized the actual enforcement of these certifications, or has monopolized some control over it, so their responsibility is limited. And we were talking about big pharma. I said, why do you think that there's so many issues with regards to, because FDA, big pharmaceuticals and stuff? So, well, how are you going to know if a medicine's safe? And I was giving him the argument that more people die from not getting a potentially unsafe drug than those who would die because of accidentally unsafe drugs. We generally agreed that the pharmaceutical companies have no reason to kill people. So he didn't go down that road, thankfully. But I said, the government controls them, then exempts them from all responsibility. So even if they put out a bad drug, there's no recourse that the customer has for a bad drug. And he's like, well, what are you going to do? The person's already dead. I'm like, what are you talking about? The FDA allows bad drugs out all the time. That's why they have recalls. So people, Vioxx or whatever, people died. What recourse did they have? Zero. At least in a market, freer market, you at least have some sort of tort against the company. Now you have zero. So you have a dead relative and no restitution, or a dead relative and restitution. Which one's better?
So I just want to bring up, we have in the chat room, people are talking about organics and labeling. And Anarcho Tom says only USDA organic might as well not be organic. I like to see QAI, Oregon, Tilth, or something like them besides USDA organic. So I guess that's something I haven't really looked into, the labeling of organic stuff as much as I
into that.
As much as I should have. Okay,
that's it's like tax law. There's a lot. There's a lot to that, to what constitutes organic, what doesn't constitute organic, all that sort of stuff.
I guess I'm aware of that. I think a lot of times I just, if there's only the regular product and then the only organic product, it's like, all right, well, I'm just going to get that because it's probably at least somewhat better.
See, taking more of the personal responsibility route, like, I like to talk to the people who grow the food, because I know one thing we see is a lot of farmers can't afford a certification by anybody, pretty much. So it's like, okay, what are you guys growing? What are you selling? And it's like, all right, this is the thing that's in season. How did you grow it? And they're like, oh, we used mounds and we did this. And, it's like, did you treat the soil? No, we did this, we did that. Like, I actually like talking to the people.
They could be full of crap too.
Oh, they could be full of crap. But, there's also no, I guess there's no real great motivation for the guy to lie to me over.
And if he is, at least he's lying to his face.
Yeah, exactly. Over like $1 worth of onions that I'm going to buy off him. Especially since I buy like all the random second rate crap that they can't sell to anybody else, because I can a lot of it. Like, the guy's just probably not going to lie.
You can onions?
Can onions? No. Oh. I dry onions though.
Well, you put onions and canning in the same.
Oh,
vicinity.
Sorry. I was actually thinking of corn.
So you eat a lot of canned corn?
Unfortunately, I do. I'm still working my way through the canned corn, and it gets like super, super sweet when you can it, just because I guess when you heat it up and stuff like that, it breaks down and makes those simple sugars. So it's kind of makes me think of ethanol every time I eat it.
That sounds
Tasty
fantastic.
ethanol.
That'll fuel you up. All right, so we haven't had too much tech news, have we? I guess we talked about nanotechnology and why we shouldn't call it nanobots.
Yeah, the nanobots. Yeah, nanobots.
The nanobots.
There's that EG8 going on, isn't there? And
don't know what that
Sarkozy,
is.
the
Sarkozy.
electronic G8 meeting.
Ah,
And I guess
Interesting.
Sarkozy wants a more quote unquote civilized internet. And from
I'd
what
never trust a politician to decide what's civilized.
and apparently there's quite a few people freaking the hell out over his wanting a more civilized internet, which obviously means regulation on who
I
knows
think
what.
the word is domesticated, not civilized. We have to put it under control so that we can exploit it over its entire lifetime.
Yeah, I guess he didn't go into specifics. Some of the quotes that I read seemed to indicate that he wanted something regarding like privacy, so you would potentially be liable for leaking private information, like someone's home address, online. But all that information for the normal person is already out there, so I don't know what good that would do. But then again, he wasn't very specific, and
Well, you don't want to be specific. Then people try to hold you down to some kind of position.
Yeah,
That's
then when
true.
you change your position the next time you need to run because you found out that wasn't tenable, it's like, 50% plus one people don't like that position? Oh, okay, I need to change it.
Oh, well, people like that, but we can't get the funding or the bureaucrats to do that. Well, let's try something else. So what else we got in technology?
Oh, I know what you wanted to
wait,
talk
we didn't
about.
actually talk about those articles that Tennyson sent
Yeah,
us.
we didn't. I just looked one up now, but didn't get a chance to read through all of it. We can talk about it next show. But you wanted to talk about my lawnmower. You want to talk about
Sure.
early? Well, you said you thought the lawnmower was cool.
I did, but I just assumed you would have talked about it last time.
No,
I wasn't
we
here.
didn't.
Oh,
we
yeah.
didn't. We didn't
Well,
finish the Who Am I game or the talk about the lawnmower.
I wasn't here to guess it in like 5 seconds.
Yeah,
so-
you really crushed that. Midway through the quote that was like the third something. That was pretty brutal. But anyway, the lawnmower. So I've got a real lawnmower, REEL, and so it's a manual lawnmower. And I had my old Scott's one for a while, and finally it got to the point where I'm like, yeah, I want to upgrade. I've been doing this for 5 years. I want to get something a little bit nicer. So I ended up getting this. It's made by Mascot, and it's this big, huge. It's only 18 inches wide, but it weighs 41 pounds. It's like this testament to just hardened steel, right?
Sometimes it's cool, just heavy duty stuff.
It's pretty darn heavy duty. But the cool thing is, if you've ever used a real lawnmower, is it can spin up, and then once it spins up, it's going really well. This one has a lot of angular momentum because you're twisting a whole lot of metal around, right? So it does not want to stop. So it handles tall stuff pretty well, goes through like thick clods of grass. I've been happy with it, but at the same time, like I recognize its limitations. I think the Mascot 18-inch lawnmower would be a good thing to buy for your second lawnmower if you're getting into manual lawnmowers, but probably not your first because you wouldn't really appreciate it. You'd be like, well, this sucks. And it's like, well, I got news for you. All manual lawnmowers kind of suck when compared to gas. So like once you're beyond that getting used to the manual lawnmower stage, I think it's a good investment.
Okay.
But it was originally made by the Amish, and now it's made in China. They ship it to an Amish dude who checks it over and like checks off everything. He's like, oh, okay, it's good. It's now Amish certified, and then they ship it out.
I don't know. Is that Amish government agents? Is this the government Amish agency?
I'm
or is
pretty
it...
sure they pay the Amish guys to do it. So
Okay. So
it's Amish certification right there
all
for
right.
your manual stuff.
So So it's one of those lawnmowers that just it has like the spinning blades. How is it? Is it just like straight attached to the wheels? Are there gears involved, or how does it?
There's gears involved because it spins faster than the wheels spin.
Okay.
So it's got a gear ratio to it. And then basically what the blade does is it presses the leaf of grass up against a bar in the back, in between it and the blade. And the blade is angled, and it cuts that way. So it does pretty well for a really old technology. It's a good time.
Okay, so is it a pain to just like push this thing around, or does it not cut grass as well, or what?
The problem mainly with real lawnmowers is you can't really tall grasses won't get cut. They'll just get pushed down. So if you have tall weeds poking out or tall grasses, and I mean like tall, like over maybe 6 inches, then it's not gonna do it for you.
Huh.
But if you mow your lawn like every week, basically, you'll do fine.
Other than that, you need to use the Reaper or the
Yeah, you could use a scythe.
You could use a weed whacker because that's great for the environment.
I actually have a weed whacker that I use for all the trim and everything else like that, just because there's really it's hard to get around it. And the problem is with the electric weed whackers. Well, there's a new version that came out that I saw. The electric weed whackers tend to be a little bit underpowered. I mean the battery powered electrics, and then the corded electric is just a pain to have to drag the cord around everywhere.
So how do you know about like I assume the blades on this mower will go dull at one time.
Yep,
Go
after a
dull.
while.
I don't even know if that's right English, but
The way you sharpen one of them is it's called like backlapping, I think. And basically, you take
it sounds like a pretty old school activity.
if you've ever ground down valves for like overhead valves in an engine, if you ever ground them down by hand with lapping compound, it's like this gritty paste. And basically, you smear it along the area that you're trying to grind down, then you kind of run the mower backwards with a wrench. And what that does is it pushes the metal the other way, making a sharp blade on the other side.
Interesting.
There's a lot you can learn about sharpening stuff, by the way. If you ever want to get into like straight razors and stuff like that, you can learn all kinds of things about how to make stuff sharp.
That's a good thing.
There's
for things
nanotechnology to make things sharp now too.
Is there? Like
Yes.
what?
Like you can align things so that you have a nice perfect edge, and it cuts pretty well. The funny thing is, normal edges on knives are actually all very jagged, and the teeth just happen to point in one way, as opposed to like side to side like a saw. So people got kind of used to that, and the cutting motion's done with that. If you make a molecularly perfect knife, it doesn't function the same way a normal knife does. Like moving it side to side doesn't help it go through anything.
Huh. So you just push it straight down?
Yeah, it just kind of pushes through stuff.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, well, I mean, when the blade, it's you can't get it to be that fine. Like you can only scrape metal to be so smooth with a stone or a strop or whatever. So there's going to be different edges on it that's going to catch. So I assume that when you I guess kind of do a curved cutting motion, a slice rather than a push down, it's because it's catching.
Yep.
So
there you go. And when you use a steel to sharpen your knives and things like that, all you're really doing is aligning the teeth back towards one side of the knife.
Interesting. All right, so I think we are done with our Thinking Liberty for tonight.
Woohoo!
Maybe we'll get to that other tech news next week. Let's blame Tennyson because he hasn't here. He only sent it to us
he sent it to us at like 12:15 or something like that.
Yeah, you got to send it at least a day early.
I noted at the time. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to read this.
Whatever time he sent it, you have to send it earlier than that. That's what the problem is.
People in the chat room, if you ever grow stevia, make sure you trim it a lot so it stays short and bushy. Otherwise, the base gets kind of woody and you don't get very many leaves from it. I made that mistake once. I grew like the gangliest woody stevia ever. You really kind of got to keep trimming it back and keep it nice and short.
We have a question about a T-shirt giveaway. Are we doing that this week?
Sure. What do you want to do for the T-shirt giveaway?
I don't know. Whoever knows the most about Clarence Lee Swartz.
Clarence Lee. I'm not going to go with that because there's not much about that guy out there. He wrote "What is Mutualism?" That's about it.
And he took a while to answer it too. Like he didn't have like a very clear introduction.
Yeah, he covers everything. It's written like you can read parts of it. It's like this is the part on banking. This is the part on property. Okay. But anyway, so what do we want to do? How about, because they're talking about gardening, how about you email us your best gardening tip? We will pick the best gardening tip.
That's fantastic. Best gardening tip. I assume we'll read all the good gardening tips.
Yeah, tell us. We're all growing stuff.
Gasoline makes great fertilizer. So, best gardening tip. Email it to us. contact@thinkingliberty.com. podcast@karate.net.
Winner gets a T-shirt.
Winner gets a T-shirt.
Next week.
If you want to email us about karate or whatever, you could do that as well. But all right, best gardening tip: water it. That's
been raining all week here. We're good for water.
All right. So this has been another quality production of Thinking Liberty, where it's okay to be Takei. And thank you for listening. Wherever you are, live free.
Days fall into wasted space, and time just passes by. Catch your innovation before it fades away. Don't let the light pass you by and go waste away. So get yourself together. Nights rise into open chance, and time just disappears. Don't